Hello and welcome to the Samsung Your Industry Focus webinar for retail and manufacturing. My name's Graham Good and I head up the enterprise segment here at Samsung in the UK. Firstly, thank you for taking the time and trouble to join us today. Secondly, the agenda will flash up on the screen shortly, and if at any point in the session today you'd like to ask a question, please just type it into the box on screen that will appear shortly. What business has not been fundamentally impacted by the tumultuous events of the last 18 months? From the immediate shutdown of retail to the urgent requirement of workers to work from home, organisations of all sizes have had to adapt and be flexible in ways never seen before. This also created the opportunity for businesses to re-examine their purpose and their operational models as they work out how to adapt to this new world. The acceleration of digital transformation has also created huge opportunity as businesses have become ever more mobile-centric, while still having to address concerns of security and data protection. Here at Samsung, we seek to inspire the world with our innovative technologies, products and design that enrich people's lives, like the incredible Fold devices transforming the mobile industry and providing the first real innovation in a very long time. Whether that be our new computing devices, which tie together both IT and mobility to provide an incredible user experience, as well as a whole range of other solutions to be covered in the session today. Samsung believe that this technology should be available for businesses of all sizes, whether that be small businesses right the way through to multinational corporations. On screen, you can see the agenda for today, and you'll hear about real-life customer stories and solutions. At this point, I'd like to hand over to our partner Symec to introduce themselves.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Jack Hughes. I'm the Sales Director at Symec. I've been in the industry for around 10 years and at Symec for 7. And what we do at Symec is we're an end-to-end solutions provider focused in on 4 main categories of product or service. So they're hardware, software, service and connectivity.
Good morning. I'm Chris Bond. I'm a solutions architect at Symec. I've been in the industry for around 14 years now, recently appointed this year to the Symec tech team. Role typically covers creating solutions for customers around their device management and also providing third line support for our service teams and operation teams.
Thanks, guys. I'm Paul Griffith from the channel marketing team at Samsung, and I'd just like to welcome you, echo what Jack and Chris said, and thank you for attending today. Excuse me. I'd also like to take the opportunity to introduce Mike Maynard, who's our retail and manufacturing specialist here at Samsung. So Mike, just before I come to you, just a quick reminder as well for everybody watching today to use the Q&A box for any questions that you may have during the course of the session, and we'll come to those at the end. Mike, if I could come to you, could you just talk us through your view of the world? Obviously, COVID's had a huge impact on the retail sector in particular. What kind of challenges have you seen over the past 18 months or so?
Yeah, I guess, and welcome everybody. I guess you're right. So probably retail has been one of those really high profile sectors that's been on the news on a very regular basis. Obviously, COVID and pandemic. Huge impact on retail. Obviously, lots of major retailers forced to close, either temporarily or permanently. But actually, it's kind of accelerated an awful lot of investment in technology. That's been my experience, and it's been actually quite busy and exciting as people are like moving and transitioning to shift their business operations into a better place. Some of the changes in consumer behaviour accelerated with demands for like scheduled product delivery. So I've kind of seen three key areas that we've had a lot of interaction with customers about. One is delivery completely exploded. So the moment that the retail high street shut, and about 30% of trade moved immediately to online. It was just such a massive shift. Those businesses that had kind of a balanced strategy of online and high street kind of survived. Those that didn't didn't. Arcadia is a case in point. But as I say, about 30% switched very quickly, and that increased the pressure on the essentials and food retail sector to come up with better, quicker, faster, more efficient ways of delivering, and allowing a customer journey that was suitable for people's requirements. And that's resulted in a massive increase in requirements for vehicles, drivers, devices to be able to pick items, deliver items, and confirm that delivery. And a lot of people changed their jobs, right? So people that have delivered to me have been accountants, cab drivers, even a pilot. So people have changed where pandemic has hit them. So delivery is a big one. And as I say, essential supplies businesses had to really work quite hard and quickly to work out how to get around it. The second thing that I saw was the communications within businesses struggled. What I mean by that is that previously there hadn't been the pressure to disseminate information so quickly. There were so many changes happening early days inside of the pandemic, that things were happening and changing daily, weekly, monthly. Many businesses had probably previously operated on an as needed basis, traditional hierarchical dissemination of information and data from the top downwards over a period. So chaos kind of reigned initially, until a point at which businesses were able to adjust, and Microsoft gave us Teams, I guess, is one way of looking at it. And then the third thing was people on the shop floor, frontline workers, were being asked to adapt and work in very different ways, and under quite a bit of pressure, because resources were challenged because of COVID and pandemic. So new ways of working, new tasks, new responsibilities, new restrictions, that all changed their working environment. And even new and redirected resource would need training, management, directing, information support, to kind of deliver the new customer experience. So it's those three things: delivery exploded, communication struggled, but kind of stabilised, and then people have been asked to adapt. And they're kind of the points that I would look at.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mike. That's really interesting. And I think there's a couple of things there that would be good to come back to a bit later on. Jack, if I come to you, similar question, really, the kind of conversations you've been having with customers in the past 12 to 18 months, what kind of things are you seeing?
Yeah, much the same, actually. I mean, clearly it's no secret that online and home delivery is really exploded. And I think that's, well, for us, certainly where we've seen the biggest amount of change and acceleration in terms of people's plans. Might have been on the roadmap, but actually COVID and the pandemic kind of made sure those plans accelerated. And that's so that the retailers can still provide their services, but also, with there being that transition to online delivery, a lot more people are doing it, therefore the competition is a lot greater. So having an opportunity to be able to differentiate even within that marketplace was key, and the power of the solution that ultimately runs that home delivery piece is key, because you can get a fairly straightforward basic kind of system which doesn't have a bunch of features that actually a consumer like you or I would find really useful, like timed delivery slots and knowing who your driver is going to be, for example, and having the ability to change that slot. So it's that kind of extra features and functionality that were being asked for now, rather than just a basic proof of delivery to say, yeah, it's been delivered. So I think that's one of the key areas. Another key area, I think, is the digitization piece. So to Mike's point that he made earlier, people working remotely, and also not wanting to physically touch pieces of paper and hand pieces of paper around the business. So things like vehicle safety checks, as an example, before you go out on your deliveries, a lot of businesses were using paper to do that on a clipboard. Not ideal, to be fair, in pre-pandemic. But that digitization project was very much accelerated in order to leverage the devices and the rest of the software that's being used to make that process a lot quicker and slicker. They're probably the main things that we've seen.
Brilliant, thank you. And Chris, just picking up on that digital transformation point there, how have you seen that manifesting itself with customers?
Yeah, it's interesting because also there's not just the digital transformation, but there's the communication element too. If you take the manufacturing sector, for example, you're wanting to get those devices in hand that all the users can use, not just whatever area they're in, but also being flexible enough to change the use case for the device when the environment changes. If it's a safety thing, if something happens within the plant or whatever it is, that typically you would be moving away from that area or having to reallocate resources somewhere else. But if you having the more flexible mobility solution within those four walls as well, means you can then keep that workflow going, and also making sure that all the workforce have everything they need at hand. And obviously you need decent communication to those devices to have that run. So yeah, that digital transformation is pretty key for that, I feel.
Great, and that links back to something Mike was saying around how in retail staff have been asked to sort of take on different roles and responsibilities in store, and the way they work has changed. We're sat here on the 19th of July, which is in the UK the day that supposedly everything goes back to normal. We'll see how that pans out. But Mike, do you have any examples of sort of customers where they've embraced technology and those roles have changed on the shop floor?
Yeah, I think I'll kind of go back to the 3 points I made. So delivery wise, a good example that I was involved in this last year was with Hermes, that we're probably all very familiar with and probably all have received a parcel or two over the pandemic period. They're kind of responsible for about 80+% of the retail last mile delivery. They saw an increase in drivers of 50%. So their growth rate and their recruitment rate just went through the roof. And in 6 months they were up to 12,000 drivers. And where they found themselves was that they needed accurate picking information, accuracy of efficient delivery, efficient route planning, and then at the end of it, as Jack mentioned there, EPOD, electronic proof of delivery, because the last thing you want to do is like hand somebody something to write. It's all about keeping those distances. So Hermes was a great example of embracing technology, but being able to increase very quickly. So once you've got something there that works, it's actually quite simple then to make it larger. When something like this happens, and they handled it really well. I think the communications bit, Chris mentioned it there. I mentioned it, right? So one of the good examples I saw was actually the co-op. So at the start of the pandemic, they had that problem of not being able to communicate to their stores quick enough because everything was changing daily, weekly, monthly, as I said. So it was just too fast, and this was kind of causing chaos to the customer journey because things couldn't change quicker and people were under one impression, but also stress for obviously the frontline workers that then had to work within that environment and with that and actually deliver that customer journey. So they were suffering with communication and speed of communication. And I think, you know, due to a large number of short timelines, they found themselves having to deploy very quickly solutions that would give that instant ability to be able to video conference their entire business, or plus then be able to do it reasonably, plus be able to do it on an area basis. So it gave them back a mechanism by which they could communicate and explain to people how to do and what. So Co-op's a good example of a business that had to change and embrace digitalization and communication very quickly. And then finally, the one that sticks out at the moment, it's a very recent one, but it's kind of been worked on for like the last 18 months, is Walmart. And it's about that frontline worker being efficient, being faster, and being adaptive. And how do you improve that? So when it comes to enabling frontline workers, Walmart has just rewritten the rule book. And what I mean by that is that, this is all public domain that I'm going to be talking about here. It's now a fact that they'll be deploying this year their own developed application called Me at Walmart. Their view is that what they're trying to do is, the view is that a great customer experience starts with a great associate experience. So they're saying, let's invest in our people and let's give them the right tools. And the right tools to be the difference between fast or frustrating for an end user, right? So it's critical. And what it does is it simplifies daily tasks, it improves services to customers, and it kind of helps them plan their own private life, because they've taken a really interesting view on it. They've built, you know, they needed a multifunction device. Samsung was able to give them that, and I'll cover that a bit later. But what they've done is they've actually provided a device to 740,000 of their workers. So it's a massive piece of business. Obviously displacing, you know, a traditional rugged manufacturer with a business rugged solution, but bespoke, because it's their app, and therefore they can do what they want with it, and they just need the means to do that. So Walmart, yeah, watch out for all of the fanfare and information that's going to come out of that. And well, as I say, I think we've been working with them on that for the last 18 months. It's all being started to be deployed now. So they're three examples, I think, of companies that have done well, have adapted well. And it is about adaptive change, Hermes, Co-op, and Walmart. So household names, but best-in-class delivery, they're kind of best-in-class communications, and then, if you like, best-in-class enablement of the people on the shop floor.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mike. It sounds like there's some, you know, amazing innovation there. And so, you know, I think definitely the landscape is changing. So it'll be interesting to see how a lot of that stuff filters through across the wider sector. Jack, on that point, are there any examples of innovation from a Symec perspective that you've been involved with fairly recently?
Yeah, sure. So, funnily enough, that example that Mike gave on Co-op is something that we've been asked for a few times, and actually off the back of one of our large customers asking us for pretty much that's, you know, what Mike just described, a means of communicating across you know, thousands of devices, thousands of workers really easily, was something that we then went away and developed. So we've developed an app called Shareable, and it's a content management application or content sharing application. So you can share video content, PDF, pretty much whatever format the device is compatible with, and you can manage that content from a central portal. So we've seen it used for things like health and safety messaging, COVID messaging, things like just general corporate updates from the senior management, for instance, and you can manage by who receives the content by group. You can also update it remotely and remove it if you need to. So it's a really slick tool for communicating to your employee base. And we also actually created a feature that allows that content in certain scenarios to be shared onwardly. So, for instance, you might have a requirement to share health and safety information with the person you're delivering to, for example. So you can forward a safety video, for example, to whoever is receiving a package, and that could be, I don't know, someone receiving something that is classed as a dangerous good, like a knife or something like that, and you want to give them a short safety video to say, don't hurt yourself, or whatever it might be. So that's one example, and that was developed in-house, and very quickly, within 6 to 8 weeks, we had that live and being piloted, and it's now being rolled out across thousands of devices. So that's been a real good success story for us during the COVID period. The other kind of main thing is kind of going back to the example that I gave previously around delivery and how the power of the solution has become important, not just having an ePod application, but one that is that sets our customers apart from the rest of the crowd. So having that kind of Amazon experience, for want of a better term, where you know who your driver is, you know what time window is going to turn up within like a 15-20 minute time window. You've got an option of texting to say, can you rearrange my delivery? So that kind of front end application and customer experience has become really important. But also linked to that is the importance of the organisation, of the retailer, or the whoever it might be, to deliver more efficiently than they ever have done before, because of the huge demand and limited resource in terms of vehicles and humans to drive them. Being able to make sure that you're delivering whatever it is as efficiently and at a lower cost as possible is really key. So again, our partner Locus have a routing optimization tool that allows you to leverage it in 3 different ways. Firstly, strategic, so you can look at, right, I'm seeing these volumes, where do I put my next depot, for example, and how many vehicles might I need at that depot to be able to cope with the throughput. Second one is tactical, so looking at my existing network and what happens if. So what happens if Christmas, my peak period goes through the roof, for example? How many more vehicles might I need at each different distribution centre? And you can model out various different scenarios there, and then you've got your kind of day-to-day routing that takes the jobs that you've got to deliver that day, spreads them across your fleet, and allocates them using the right or whatever business rules that are set, making sure that the individuals the right tools, be that physical tools, right type of vehicle, but also the right type of training, for instance. So making sure that if you're going to deliver a washing machine, that you're qualified, your driver is qualified to actually install that washing machine, for example. So those additional kind of more in-depth features of the software are becoming more and more important.
Great, thanks, Jack. And Chris, if I come to you, in terms of what Symec offers and how Symec works, how does the sort of solution, I guess, unravel, and what's your approach to solutions with customers?
Yeah, I mean, our approach, especially with Samsung devices, we'll we'll be able to, it's a one-stop shop essentially, so that we want to give the customer that security in that we can provide the technical consultancy around the devices, picking out what's best for them, along with the software solution with the partners that we have that we can kind of bring to the table, that actually kind of drives the solution forward properly. And we'll instigate all the best practices that most IT managers be familiar with. So going through the discovery phase, as I said, we have our project management teams that will, should you be lacking in that, you need that assistance, we can help plan that rollout, especially when it comes to integrating those third-party software providers as well and bringing that all together. And then go through, pilot phases and UAT phases with the solution and rolling that out. We'll also provide that aftercare from our technical team, and we have the help desk for first line and perhaps even second line support, looking to make sure we are integrating with whatever ticketing system that you have as a customer, so that it essentially becomes that kind of one stop for all those needs. And I think in terms of the products that we're seeing, so when we're seeing these refreshes and things, the key people are definitely keen to be keeping it sort of almost like one sort of flavor of device somewhere across the board. So a lot of the solutions we look at, we end up seeing how much we can get out of using that device, that communication, that instant communication thing we've been touching on this morning. Those frontline workers want to be leveraging perhaps any of the Microsoft kind of elements as well. So it's getting that sort of device affinity and making sure that users are wanting to look after their devices, because perhaps using them for personal use as well. So that tends to be our journey through kind of onboarding and then supporting going forward with our next day exchanges for replacement devices and making sure that uptime's there.
Great, thank you. And you mentioned devices there, Mike. If I come to you, obviously Samsung is a manufacturer of devices. You referenced a sort of range of devices, I think, in the Walmart example you were giving before. Could you just talk to us a little bit about what Samsung does offer in this space from a device perspective?
Sure. I mean, I think, everybody will be familiar with the fact that we have a really wide range of portfolio of smartphones, but, rugged devices suitable for retail, logistics, manufacturing environments isn't new to us. The Hermes scenario are using X-Cover 5s, 5 meaning it's the 5th iteration of that device. It's not new, but what it does is it has that kind of IP rating, 68, so it's waterproof and it's dustproof, 1.5 meter drop, so you can drop it and it won't break, and that's without any additional protective boot or anything. It's got all the tumble tests, the military certification, etc. Glove touch, so you can use gloves, and also wet touch. So the devices that we have that are rugged now all have those characteristics. We have 2 tablets. We have a 10-inch and an 8-inch tablet, and then we have 2 handsets, a 6-inch and a 5-inch. The X-Cover 5 is a great device for, as I say, really logistics suits well, but just general scanning, shop floor, back of house, etc. It's camera-based scanning, so it has the ability to be able to multiple scan quicker than traditional devices, and you can use optical recognition for some quite clever augmented reality things like checking prices with a green or a red indication. So handset rugged. Co-op was the Tab Active Pro, so that's a 10-inch rugged tablet. And that's because the managers are also using them in the back of office for line of business applications, as Jack mentioned there. And you can use them through thin client connectivity, Citrix, VMware, Microsoft, enabling you connection to your line of business application, but also enabling you to put an Android environment using DeX into a Windows type experience, so you can have all of the Android applications on your device in resizable windows, multiple second windows, etc. So that's suited that. Walmart is the X-Cover Pro, so that's the larger one of the handsets. And the reason for that is that they're actually giving their colleagues that handset not only to use at work, but also to take home and use at home.
Yeah.
So it's a dual persona device, and you can do that with our devices because we have the ability to have a secure container that you can put all of the business applications in, and that's secure. And then you can kiosk it to only make them available during working hours relating to what their schedules are. So it's something that they've given them. It's something that's not an entry-level device, so therefore they see value. And I think people do kind of see a value of a smartphone because they use them. They understand that they're multifunctional, and certainly the X covers that we have come, they're scan ready, they're MPOS ready, so you could take payments with them. They're business app ready. So, you've got a true multifunction device there.
And some of the examples that have been shared on the session this morning, we're talking about quite big numbers of devices, quite big sort of deployments. So if someone's sitting here thinking, crikey, how do I make sure that all of those devices are, set up the way I want them? How does that work?
So from an enterprise perspective, what you don't want to be doing is tying up very pressured resource with doing manual configurations or scan configurations. Okay, so Samsung's Knox suite of tools provide you with zero-touch deployment capability. You can download a profile. You can download the MDM of their choice. And also then you can monitor those devices ongoing and ensure that they're at the right version of OS and security. So what we have in Knox is a suite of application tools that will help you control that device, lock it down, make it secure, but also be able to open it and do some quite clever configuration things with it.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got a couple of questions here from the floor. So Jack, maybe if I come to you in the first instance, and the question is it realistic that large retailers are going to invest in mobility solutions for store staff when there's such a huge shift towards online retail?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think Mike gave some examples earlier of, Arcadia obviously not going so well. And I think that was on the basis of, a very high street led business model. I think the most optimal is probably a hybrid because, people often want to visit a physical shop to try an item of clothing on, or, have a browse in person rather than scrolling through web pages. So we've spoken a lot about the home delivery piece. That's obviously very important, but I think the store operations side of things is perhaps slightly less important, but still important nevertheless. You don't want as a consumer to walk into a shop and receive a poor customer experience because the colleagues that are working in the shop are not equipped with the right tools to be able to help you with whatever your request is. There's not a lot more annoying than going into a shop saying, have you got this in a size whatever, and you're waiting around for 10 minutes whilst they're routing through the back storeroom. You often lose interest and leave. So equipping the store operatives with the tools that are required in order to give a really good solid customer experience, I think is really important. If a retailer is going to continue in the bricks and mortar high street space, because ultimately the experience online is really good. So you've got to make sure the in-store one is equally as good.
Yeah, you've got to match that. Paul, could I just add to what Jack's saying there? I mean, the conversations I'm having today, I would absolutely categorically say that people are going to be investing. River Island are just about to deploy 2,500 devices to people in stores. We're talking to all of the major supermarkets about when their traditional rugged devices come up for renewal. A business rugged multifunctional device is going to be a lot more suitable, and actually from a commercial perspective they're going to save an awful lot of money using those. those devices. So categorically, yeah, the conversation I have in people are interested in investment. I think the commercial piece gives you a couple of opportunities. One, you can save money, which would enable you to invest actually in the infrastructure that supports those devices. Or secondly, if you have a great infrastructure already in place, then you can buy twice as many devices and proliferate a lot better and enable more people. So it goes back to what Walmart is saying about the journey begins with our associates. Give them the right tool, and the customer experience will be differentiated and better.
Great, thank you. And then probably a question for the whole panel. And the question is, how do Samsung and Symec actually work together? So I guess what's that dynamic? If somebody wants to speak to somebody about an opportunity within their business or solution they're looking to implement, who do they come and talk to?
So we very much work in close partnership, the two businesses, Samsung and Symec. And the way that works is Samsung don't sell directly to an end user. It's a channel-led model. That being said, the likes of Mike are obviously involved in the kind of sales process and the speccing out of whatever the solution might look like. So you can approach the two of us together, and we'll work together to make sure that the solution that we propose to the customer is meets the requirements and is the best fit for what's required.
Great. And so, Mike, your role, Jack mentioned sort of end customer facing. How does that work?
Yeah. So I mean that is Samsung's global model is not to deal directly. We invest very heavily in partners like Symec. My role is to be that Samsung representative sitting alongside Symec, talking to an end user and giving them the confidence that the partner they're talking to is absolutely connected with the manufacturer, and therefore all of the manufacturer's strength, capability, supportability, technical know-how, etc., is all sitting as part of this offering. So it's quite compelling, and I guess my role is a role that enables me to then ongoing provide more and more information about innovation. So it doesn't just stop with the initial engagement. It will carry on. So Jack and I will continuously review biannually on talking back to customers about what's latest, what's the roadmap, what are other people doing. That's kind of what I bring, is listening to what you're trying to do. It's this kind of device for this reason, and it's been done here before by this company. So it works well, works really well.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think we've probably come towards the end of our time now. There aren't any more questions from the floor, but there's a nice segue there into if people do want to get in touch. The guys on the session this morning have given me permission to share their contact details. So if you do want to get in touch, then feel free to reach out to any of the three on the session this morning. So if I start with Jack, he's jack.hughes@symec.co.uk, and his mobile number is 07985 661 440. Chris is chris.bond@symec.co.uk, and 0778 136 953. And Mike is m.maynard@samsung.com, and his number is 07789 654463. So thanks very much. Thanks for your time and attention this morning, and wish you a great rest of the day. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.